Welcome back for today's video where I want to go through and give the reasonable best case scenario for the Senate Democrats on election day, the midterms of 2018. So just the reverse of what I did yesterday, where I went through and I put together what I thought was the Republicans' best case scenario. Going to be doing that for the Democrats with the 17 seats that I think are at least worth discussing and talking about on how things might play out. We already have 14 seats in the safe Democrat category and 4 in the safe Republican category. And when I say reasonable best expectations, that means not winning seats like Utah and Wyoming, for instance, even Nebraska, where it's one step below those safe Republican seats. We just don't have enough data, I feel, to go off and make any type of strong case that the Democrats have a chance in Nebraska. Not completely out of the realm of possibility, but it is a long shot. And in a reasonable best case scenario, I still don't see the Democrats picking up that Senate seat, trying to take down an incumbent Republican senator. So what I'm going to do here is start out west and then work my way back east and just go through all of these states and just give a little color on these respective Senate matchups, how things are looking right now. And then if the Democrats have a reasonable shot of taking the seat, I'm going to be giving it to their side. So starting off here in the state of Nevada, the Republicans have the incumbency with Dean Heller. They're being challenged by the Democrat Jacky Rosen, who is the U.S. House of Representatives member from Nevada's 3rd congressional district. And actually right now over at 538, their statistical model has this one as a 60% chance for Rosen. It's going to be very close on election day, and the fact that the Republicans have the incumbency advantage is likely to make this very close. But Nevada, it's a state that the Democrats have been targeting for some time now to try to pick up this seat. And when you get strong turnout of the vote in the state of Nevada, it generally goes for the Democrats. That's why we were able to see Obama do so well in the state, and in a presidential year in 2016, Hillary Clinton was even able to get past Donald Trump, even though she came up short overall. So coming into this one, the Democrats feel like they have a really great shot, and in a best case scenario for them, obviously going to be giving them that state. Now moving on to Arizona, currently a Republican seat with Jeff Flake. He's not running for re-election, so that opens things up a bit here for the Democrats. The Republicans, they were able to get their best candidate through the primary with Martha McSally. They dodged a bullet with not having Arpaio or Ward running against Sinema, because I feel like that would have been an absolute blowout. Should be a bit more competitive, but still, the polling data has generally been favorable for Sinema consistently in what we've been seeing in this one. Also, over at 538, they have this one listed with Sinema as almost a 70% chance to pick this one up. So definitely looking pretty good for the Democrats to flip this Republican seat over to their side of the table. And on a best case scenario, obviously definitely giving this one over to the Democrats. Moving on up to Montana, one that might not be quite as competitive as Nevada or Arizona, but still one worth talking about, because a state like a state like Montana, which tends to go more for the Republicans, has a Democratic senator in John Tester, the incumbent. Tester, he's been doing pretty well in the polling data. Also, he's very favorable, and he has almost a 90% chance of winning this one in terms of the models over at 538. So with all that being the case, in a best case scenario, definitely keeping this one with the Democrats. Moving on over to North Dakota, which I feel like might be the toughest defense here that the Democrats have to put up against the Republicans. They have a number of these seats that are in that category of being right around a toss-up, where you have the incumbency advantage for the Democrats, but it's going to be tough defending it against the Republicans. If you get strong turnout, that's going to be favorable for the Democrats, which is why they're so confident they can win a lot of these seats, because 2018 is expected to be a great year for turnout for the Democrats. But still, in a state like North Dakota, that is generally more to the red side, obviously, with the Republicans, and having Kevin Cramer, a very legitimate opposition to Heitkamp. He is the U.S. representative for the at-large district, so he has proven he can win a statewide election in North Dakota. I think Cramer has a pretty good shot here, but even 538 actually leans this one a little bit more towards Heitkamp. I think they're maybe giving a little too much credit to her incumbency advantage, because she is going against somebody like a Cramer who has that name recognition across the state, maybe more than just your typical Republican might have. But still, they put her at about a 59% chance of winning this one. And on a best case scenario, definitely going to be giving that one over to Heitkamp, the incumbent, and the Democrats. Now I'm going to move down to the special election in Minnesota. I actually think that Tina Smith is pretty safe here. Not quite as safe as Klobuchar, but there's going to be a positive trickle-down effect likely with the Democratic voter turnout and helping Tina Smith. If it was just Tina Smith on the board, and maybe if there also wasn't a governor's race in Minnesota, if it was just her by herself running against Karin Housley, that might make things a bit more interesting and competitive, but I think there's going to be a strong positive trickle-down effect for all the Democrats on the Minnesota ticket, whether that's this special election or some of their competitive congressional seats as well. So giving this one to Tina Smith and the Democrats. And I think the reverse is going to be the case in Mississippi. Even in a best-case scenario, I have a hard time finding a path for Democrat Mike Espy to take down Cindy Hyde-Smith. There's going to be a positive trickle-down effect of people that come out to vote for Roger Wicker, the Republican incumbent senator, and I think that's going to have a positive effect for Hyde-Smith in this scenario. So even in a best-case scenario, I still don't think the Democrats have a chance to take that special election in Mississippi. Now moving to the Midwest, and this is a little bit more straightforward. Most of these races over at 538 are in that 90, 95, even over 99% chance for the Democrats to win this. They have the incumbency advantage in basically all of these states, and the polling data has looked really strong, and that includes Tammy Baldwin in the state of Wisconsin, Debbie Stabenow in the state of Michigan, Sherrod Brown in the state of Ohio, and then moving a little bit further from the Midwest, Pennsylvania, same situation with Bob Casey going against Lou Barletta. And West Virginia, that was one of those states where Republicans were really hoping that they could flip over from Joe Manchin, but Manchin in the polls, he's consistently been doing well. He has good favorable numbers. He has the incumbency advantage. He did extremely well in getting that primary vote in comparison to what the Republicans had in their primary. With all that being the case, I feel like this is also a pretty relatively safe scenario for the Democrats to keep West Virginia. Moving on out to New Jersey, which in general wouldn't be as close as it's likely to be, and that's just because Bob Menendez doesn't have the greatest favorable numbers by any means. Across the board, if you look at Democratic Senator favorabilities, Menendez, I think might be the lowest, if not the lowest. He is one of the lowest, and that's making things at least interesting. But in a strong year for Democratic voter turnout, I still think at the end of the day, in what's generally a blue state, this one still goes to Menendez and taking that one. All right, so I left up what are some of the more interesting races here for the end. That's going to be states like Indiana, Missouri, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. I'll start with Indiana, where the polling data more recently has been trending in a positive direction for Joe Donnelly. Over at 538, they actually put Donnelly at about a 76-77% chance of winning this one. Not going to be easy. Indiana is a state that tends to lean a bit more Republican. Maybe Pence and Trump can have a positive effect on this particular election with Mike Braun, the former state representative. But in a best-case scenario, definitely giving that one to the incumbent with Donnelly. Next one I want to move over to is Missouri, which is kind of a similar situation to Indiana. You had Pence and Trump on that ticket doing very well, taking down Hillary Clinton. It was a complete blowout in the state of Missouri. They have Claire McCaskill, the incumbent Democratic senator. The fact that she's incumbent is helping. She's fundraised well, which is also going to help. She's going against a more credible opponent this time around than what she faced with Todd Akin in her last go-round. She's going against Josh Hawley, the Missouri Attorney General. Going to be extremely close. Over at 538, they have McCaskill's chances of winning at 63%. And I feel like some of that baked-in advantage is because she is an incumbent. And obviously, in a best-case scenario for the Democrats, going to be keeping that incumbency in the state of Missouri with Claire McCaskill. Now, moving down to three very interesting results that we're going to get on Election Day from Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. I'll start with Florida first, which isn't quite as right-leaning of a state as Tennessee or Texas. I'll finish up with those two results. So Florida, you have the incumbent Bill Nelson, and he's going to have a really tough challenge here. Probably the best-case scenario candidate for the Republicans is having Florida Governor Rick Scott run against Bill Nelson because he has that baked-in name recognition that maybe your just run-of-the-mill Republican wouldn't otherwise have against Bill Nelson. A positive effect for Bill Nelson is likely to be Gillum being on the ticket as the governor. Gillum's going to turn out a lot of unlikely voters, and that's going to have a positive effect on the down-ballot situation with Bill Nelson running for re-election. Also, a lot of those congressional seats that are going to be competitive in Florida are also likely to have a positive impact with Gillum on the ballot. And over at 538, this is, I believe, the closest situation they have, and that's Bill Nelson right now sitting at a 56% chance of winning this one. So basically right around a coin flip. In a best case scenario, you're obviously giving that coin flip to the Democrats. And now we're just at Tennessee and Texas. And just to look at 538, they have Marsha Blackburn, the Republican, at about a 61% chance. And then they have Ted Cruz at a 66% chance. And you look at those numbers and you see how deeply red these states are. And the fact that the Democrats are going to have very close elections in these states just shows you how positive overall the results are likely to be for the Democrats on Election Day. Phil Bredesen, the popular former governor of the state who's proven he can not only win statewide elections but do so convincingly. In his last election for his governor seat, he won every single county across the state. He has that name recognition. He doesn't have to go against the incumbent because that would be Corker, who is not running for re-election, going against Marsha Blackburn, who's a bit more of a further right type of candidate, which also I think helps Phil Bredesen's chances in winning this one. In a best case scenario, we're giving this one to the popular former governor of the state. And then wrapping things up with Texas, which is probably the election that I'm most interested in coming up here in the midterms, and that's incumbent Ted Cruz against challenger Beto O'Rourke. O'Rourke, he hardly had any name recognition at the beginning of the year. He's gotten a ton of press coverage. He's raised a tremendous amount of money through those small dollar donations, much in the way that Bernie Sanders was able to do in 2016. And Ted Cruz, not very favorable numbers in comparison to the other Republicans that are running as incumbents in re-elections in their respective states. Going to be really close, and in a best-case scenario, you definitely have to give this one to the Democrats in Beto O'Rourke, who right now is sitting at about a little over a one-third chance by 538 statistical model to win this one. So we'll see how that plays out as well. So at the end of the day, the absolute best-case scenario I can see within reason for the Democrats would be 53 seats on their side and then 47 for the Republicans. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. Give me your prediction on what you think might be the best case scenario for the Democrats. If you have a differing opinion than what I put together in this one, down in the comment section. Subscribe for more, and I hope to see you guys back here for future videos.